Hello everybody. Today I would like to discuss photosynthesis, the whole process of photosynthesis from the beginning to the end in a more detailed biological term. So of course, photosynthesis occurs mostly in vascular plants, meaning plants that have a xylem tissue that has connectivity from the ground to the leaves, meaning some sort of tubes that run from the ground absorbing the water to the leaves, right? So it has to be very important that it's with the vascular plants. The photosynthesis I'm about to explain happens mostly with vascular plants. So of course photosynthesis is divided into two stages, which is namely the light dependent and the light independent. The light dependent stage is also called photosystem 2, and the light independent stage is called photosystem 1. So they were named, two came first and one was discovered first, and then two was discovered later. But two happened first. It was just named according to the one that was discovered. So they first discovered the independent stage before they discovered the light stage. So the process of photosynthesis, the chemical formula is very simple. Of course, we have carbon dioxide plus water plus light energy, which is going to produce glucose plus oxygen plus water. This is the formula that would describe it in a chemical, in a chemical manner. Yes. And I would like to describe the structure of the plant where this particular thing happens, photosynthesis, in the leaves, of course, in cells called the chloroplast. Yes, I will describe the structure of the chloroplast. So, the structure of the chloroplast, where in particular the photosynthesis takes place, is not very complicated at all. So this is the chloroplast. The chloroplast cell. So it's basically it's made up of thylakoids. Thylakoids look something like this, and they're combined. These are the thylakoids. And a combination of thylakoids is called the granum. And then the inside of the thylakoid is called the lumen. This is very important to remember, as you know, the different stages of photosynthesis happen in different particular parts of the structure of the chloroplast. So this is called the stroma. Yes, this is the basic structure of the chloroplast. It's very important to notice that most of the, as we talked about, photosystem 1 and 2, photosystem 2, which is the first one, the light dependent stage, happens in the thylakoids, right? And then the second one, the first one, photosystem 1, the light independent stage, will happen in the stroma. Yeah, it's very important to understand the structure. So now that we're done with the introduction to the plants, I want to go straight to the definition, the definition of photosynthesis in their technical way. Yeah. So we shall begin with photosystem 2, which is also called the light dependent stage. Some people call it P680, which is the light wave, the best light wave, the best electromagnetic wave at which plants can absorb light. The best wavelength, yes, for the plants to absorb light. Yes, P680. Another name, photosystem 2. Another name, the light dependent, because it uses light. light-dependent stage. So what happens mostly in the photosystem 2 is going to be called oxidation of water. Yes. Basically, water is going to lose electrons. If something loses electrons, it's oxidized. If something gains electrons, it's reduced. So in photosystem 1, there's going to be mainly oxidation of water. And in photosystem 2, in photosystem 1, yes, this photosystem 2, which is also the light independent stage, is going to be reduction, yes, reduction of carbon dioxide. So photosystem 2 is also called the Calvin cycle, yes. The Calvin cycle is the direct opposite of respiration. If you notice, in respiration there's production of energy, ATP. In the Calvin cycle, there's production of glucose. In respiration, in human beings, for example, there's production of ATP from glucose. But in the Calvin cycle, there's production of glucose from ATP, which is initially what plants do. And yeah, that is a basic summary of the photosystem 2 and the photosystem 1, which is basically oxidation of H2O and reduction of carbon dioxide. And now I will move to photosystem 1. Yeah. The proceedings of photosystem 1, which, as I say, was oxidation of water, right? So the structure in photosystem 1, sorry, in photosystem 1, basically in photosystem 1, I'll first describe the plant cell. In photosystem 1, this is a much more microscopic version of the thyroid that I drew. This is the thyroid. This is the stroma that I drew earlier, but this is the more like microscopic version. Yes. So basically, one of the first things that happens, because light is where the energy comes from, right? This is where all the oxygen, most of the oxygen on Earth, is produced with photosynthesis, right? So in the photosystem 1, this is a chloroplast cell, right? Photosystem 1, photosystem 2, sorry, which is also described as pH 60. Basically, light will strike the chloroplast cell. When light energy strikes the chloroplast cell, it loses electrons, right? But when the light energy strikes the chloroplast cell, it loses electrons. So what does it do? It gains electrons from the H2O, because plants have water, right? Turning H2O into oxygen. This is where all the oxygen on Earth, photosynthesis, this is in the beginning of this process, this is where oxygen on Earth from plants is produced. When light hits the chloroplast cell, losing the energy, thus the plant has to take the electrons from the water it has. It takes 2 electrons. It takes 2 electrons, and the electrons are transported by the electrons are transported by, what is the name? Excuse me, my bad. There's a particular name for it, my bad. This particular, they look almost like enzymes, but they're not, yes. So this is described as, I think, photoquinine, yes. This carrier is more just a carrier, it's just a carrier of electrons. You can just name it a carrier of electrons. There's a particular name for it, it's not very important to know, but the most, we call it PQ. It's called the photoquinine. It will carry the electrons that have been taken away from water, and it's going to bring it to another system here, which is called the cytochrome B6F complex. Yes, the cytochrome B6F complex. In this stage, hydrogen ions from the stroma, which is the outside, are going to be pushed to the inside, right? So this is the first of which hydrogen atoms are moved. So the concentration of hydrogen atoms from the stroma is going to reduce causing hydrogen gradient, like concentration gradient, right? And of course, the electrons that have been moved from here will still continue through the complex, the B6F complex, to the photosystem 1. Yes. And since a lot of energy, but from the cytochrome B6F complex, the transfer of electrons from the cytochrome B6F complex to the photosystem 1 is carried on by another carrier, which is different. This is the cytoquinine. This is the cyto. I will get back to that. There's a lot of terms. The cyto. Sorry. Yes. Very complex name. Plastocyte something. Sorry. And so through all this stage, a lot of energy has already been lost. So more energy from sunlight, more electrons from sunlight is going to be absorbed into photosystem 2, which can also be described as P700. This is the wavelength of light that is preferred in this stage, which is continuously again carried to another carrier called FD, which is the name of that. Peroxidine, yes. Proliferoprotein, yes, that is the name. So that was the name I was looking for. These are proliferoproteins, the ones that are carrying the electrons. Yes. So in this particular stage, there's a very important thing that happens here. There's going to be formation of, there's a particular enzyme which is also proliferoprotein. It's an enzyme and it's a proliferoprotein at the same time. In this particular stage is when the energy compound NADP is going to be reduced, and also with hydrogen ions from the stroma being pushed to the inner thylakoid space, right? So in this particular side is when this energy molecule is going to be reduced into NADPH. Yeah, this is a very important, because this is a very important part of the cycle, because the biggest product is one of the biggest products of the PS2, the photosystem 2. Yeah, this is one of the biggest products because it's going to help in the photosystem 1, which is the calving process. So as this happens, finally to complete the photosystem 2, sorry, hydrogen atoms that have been compiling, hydrogen ions that have been moving from the outside, the stroma, into the inner thylakoid, having a very high concentration here, because of the concentration gradient, are going to have to be pushed back into the stroma through something called ATP synthase. ATP synthase is the structure that is going to push hydrogen ions into the outer stroma. As ATP synthase pushes the hydrogen ions out because of the concentration gradient, ADP is gonna gain hydrogen ions and phosphate ions to form ATP. So it's very important to notice that the most important product of the P680 system is oxygen, NADP, and ATP, which is formed from the ATP synthase. So that completes the photosystem 2. And now I will continue with the light stage, which is now, this is the light dependent stage. This particular stage is where light is used in the plant. There's the light dependent and then there's the light independent. So this is what I've described right now, with the product being oxygen, two energy molecules being ATP and NADP, which is which is everything in the first process, yes. And now I will continue to the Calvin cycle, also known as the light independent. Yeah. You pause it for a minute.